it's to spare instead of sparing ourselves the embarrassment of making errors on air, we're now allowing ourselves to do it live for the whole world to see. Oh, what a spectacle. And hello, the world. This is the first live episode of Live Free and Rant for your viewing pleasure. This is my lovely co-host, Chris Maidment, who's probably also spooked about this. How's it going, Chris?
Yeah, well, I pushed back on going live for like, what, 4 weeks now. So I don't know how I feel about this, but we're going for it.
Yeah, let me tell you. Because of all the different elements involved in this, it's always a little bit more of a technical annoyance to, when you actually go live to stream to all these different places. And of course, me being out of principle an open source kind of guy, I don't like to pay for things. And so I'm, bootstrapping together. We're bootstrapping together two different free streams. This should be going Chris's live stream. All the stuff going on. It seems like the freedom of different states to decide what they want to do makes some places subjected to crazy bad things, and other places not quite so crazy and bad things, but still a little bit. There's a little bit of the free choice of which state you want to. You can pick your dictator in America. It's the American way. Pick your dictator. Now, unfortunately, there's some people that don't want that to be an option. There's some people that want the dictator to be a dictator for everyone, but he's also a dictator in a bad way too. It sounds pretty confusing. So let me just give a little show over to there. Now, of course, Dinesh D'Souza is a conservative pundit that I believe went to jail for some shady stuff at one point, but who cares? Who cares? I have seen that point being made by a whole lot of people that, what irony, reporters who once charged Donald Trump with being a dictator now press him to order a national lockdown. Trump says this is a decision for governors to make at the state level. He refuses to press that little piece of parchment called the Constitution. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Trump is very much of a constitutionalist, let's be perfectly honest. But I also just don't think he wants to completely fulfill, strike me down and your journey to the dark side will be complete. I don't think he wants to completely go on full dictator in this case. And it's kind of crazy that his political opponents hate him for his power, and they also want him to use more power, to get more power, which is the ultimate irony of basically politics, is that no matter who's in power, the power kind of grows. And someone's always, even if they hate the other guy in the other seat, the other team, even if they hate that guy, they still want the seat to include more power. And that's kind of strange.
Well, it's kind of scary too if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been making this joke anyways about the left since Trump was elected. I mean, especially with all the gun control arguments that they use. They want to ban these guns and those guns and magazine sizes and wait periods and red flag laws. These are the same people that are calling Trump a dictator.
Mm-hmm.
But as anybody who's read even a tiny little bit of history knows, the only way to stop a dictatorial or totalitarian government is with armed revolution.
Mm.
And this, I mean, the same people will also say, "Oh, your AR-15 isn't going to stop the government. They have tanks." Still shouldn't be able to own them. You should only be able to own a handgun or a shotgun. Joe Biden's shotgun plan there for everybody. I don't even know what that's all about, but that guy.
You shoot at your ceiling, That's what you do with the shotgun. Or you shoot the neighbor, whatever is ill-fated, old folksy, just use a shotgun, but that's pretty crazy. So, going too deeper into this hysteria, Ohio lawmaker says she'll press crimes against humanity charge against Trump over, I'm not going to pronounce that, promotion. Basically,
Well, over hydroxychloroquine.
there we go.
And this
Thank
is
you.
the drug.
You clearly practiced.
We
I
talked
have
about
not.
this. Yeah, we've talked about this drug a couple weeks ago when those idiots in Arizona drank their fishbowl cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Of their own volition. They said, "Oh, look, it has chloroquine, whatever." There was they drank it. They downed it with Coca-Cola, and the husband died, and the woman ended up in intensive care. So now, of course, that's Trump's fault for saying that this actual approved anti-malarial drug, hydroxychloroquine, works.
Yes.
And he got the Trump derangement syndrome left all up in a tizzy, and there were actually governors that banned the use of hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin in their states. Michigan, I think, was one of the governors that did it, a leftist over there. She said, "Oh, if Trump says it, it's got to be good. It's got to be bad, because Orange Man bad. So we're going to ban it." And then 2 weeks later, she had to unban it because it actually works. So, go figure.
Yeah, and it's like the trying to pursue. This is where it's like, so, infamous comedian Louis C.K. has a little bit where he's talking about his his issues he's been dealing with over being kind of a creep and then being out of work for a while because of that. And he just says, you find out who your real friends are. And he says, that's not a good thing. You don't want to know who your real friends are. You might not like them. They're not your cool friends. They're not the fun friends. They're just your real friends. And so it's kind of like with disasters, you find out who your real friends are. And how many people are prioritizing just ridiculous nonsense to take down their political opponent, who, by the way, is not opposed to the same power system that they like. He's just the guy who's running it at the moment. He's just like a friendly rival. It's not even like this person is against their way of life. No, this person is part of your way of life. He's just a little bit different on the stuff. He's the guy in right now. And they'd rather just take potshots at him while people are dying by the tens of thousands or more. They're just like, oh, let's just get this guy charged with the human rights violations and crimes against humanity and all this nonsense just because I don't know, making stuff up. It's pretty ridiculous.
I can't even keep up anymore with. I mean, we thought 2016 was strange. 2020 is just going to be a giant dumpster fire of politics, especially with the pandemic and all the other. I mean, don't forget, 3 months ago, President Trump was being impeached.
Yeah,
he was on trial in the Senate.
But give him
so
more
we
power
went from
now, by the way.
that to right. So we need our impeached president forever impeached, as Nancy Pelosi will tell you. We need our impeached tyrant president to have more power to be tyrannical because my roads or something.
Yeah, my virus. Well,
my virus.
Definitely.
Well, speaking of roads, he wants to spend $2 trillion on an infrastructure package now as part of the COVID recession recovery plan.
Because of course everyone knows that the real people who are suffering in all this are, commuters who are commuting to the jobs that they totally still have, and they totally still need to go into their physical office to be next to all the other people. That's what we got to do, right? It's just it's one of those things that dictators love to do. First off, which again, not saying he's a good dictator or whatever, but I'm just saying all political rulers like to do stuff like this. It's like, first off, you got to have some sort of a big military thing. You can't be like let's tone down the military dictator. No, that doesn't go. And then there's other stuff where you got to have something to make the country great again. You got to hate foreigners of some kind. And then the big thing is you have to build mighty things like roads and bridges and especially trains. I don't know what it is about trains, but people who love government love them some trains.
Yes, they do. And we've seen a push for that in New Hampshire. It's for commuter rail for as long as I can remember. And the push just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And these Nashua Democrats who apparently they think they need to build a train so that their folks can go work in Boston and pay Massachusetts income taxes and pay sales taxes and higher taxes down there. By and large, the people in New Hampshire do not want commuter rail. They don't want to. I mean, it's first of all, it's hundreds years old technology, you know, and it costs a metric F ton of money to run and maintain, and the ticket fees don't ever pay for it, and it's a burden on the taxpayers, and it's slow as molasses. So you get on a train. I mean, there's fast trains, but if you've got 900 stops in between here and Boston, you got to stop in Lowell and Haverhill and all those other places. Who's going to ride the thing?
Yeah, no one pretty much. I mean, Phoenix had its big light rail experiment many years ago. It still does it, and I believe when they built it, they could have bought just about every family a new car, hit the actual headline, and then go into it because there's several levels to the absurdity of this thing. Check this out. China must pay Britain 351 billion in coronavirus damage. That's what a report from some apparently conservative think tank in the UK wants the UN to step in and sue China and pay Britain damages. Now, it is what it is. I don't know exactly if there's any sort of legal standing on that case at all, but I do know that it's a pretty hilarious little shit show going on. That so first off, do you remember the great language debate of COVIDs? The great language debate of, is it the Wuhan flu? Is it the China virus? Is it the Kung flu? Are you a horrible, despicable human being if you say any of those things? And then now we're getting to, oh, well, but China's totally responsible and they should be sued as a whole country, like the whole country of China screwed the whole country of the UK and owes them money for the, don't call it the China virus, I mean, coronavirus, whatever it is. It's pretty funny how this goes.
Yeah, well, it is really funny, and I don't know how that works in the world court or what the burdens of proof are there, but I think it's hysterical, and I think I'm sure Trump is going to do something to. If you look at how much money, I mean, we've spent like $8 trillion on stimulus to try to staunch the bleeding of closing the entire economy down for weeks on end. We're trying to send people money direct to their bank accounts so that they can pay their rent and their mortgage and their car payments. And we're doing all this because of the China virus. And of course, don't call it the China virus. That's racist. Well, it originated in China. Yeah. Just like the Spanish flu originated in Spain, and Eastern or the West Nile virus originated, well, guess what? Around West Nile. So it's not racist to call it the China virus. It's just not. Of course, it's called the coronavirus because we live in 2020 and everything is politically correct now.
I have to say,
but give me a break.
Like the coronavirus, I do kind of like the names. It's like COVID-19. God, it sounds stupid. I like the coronavirus because it has something to do with, everyone can remember it. It sounds like this beer that everyone hates that I'm glad everyone actually hates now. And it just, calling it the Rona, it brings me pleasure. So I'm okay with never calling it the Kung flu again or whatever. It's just funny how people are more preoccupied with that than they are with actually like where it came from, and the fact that China is now getting sued, or not, by the way, not that I know, but there's a recommendation to go try to sue them over this sort of thing. Now, speaking of which, I read this thing: millions of Chinese-made coronavirus tests bought by British government don't work. Now that's a little bit more of a standing for a lawsuit right there, huh? So
yeah, well, I mean, nothing that comes out of China works, and if it does work, it doesn't last very long. I mean, the coronavirus is the longest lasting Chinese-built product in history.
Probably,
except for the wall. I mean, the Great Wall of China has been around for I don't even remember how long. But aside from the Great Wall of China, the only things that they export that actually do what they're supposed to do are the coronavirus and fentanyl.
Yeah. So what they're supposed to do? You mean this is an engineered virus?
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not gonna put on a tinfoil hat.
What does this have to do with
If
5G?
I quit, I'm not doing this. I can't talk about the 5G conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's just a little too many layers to that conspiracy dip. Uh, which, by the way, if you guys are listening live, throw in a couple questions or comments into the live chats, and I'm not going to be looking at it right now, but towards the end, we're going to go through and see what else there is to talk to. So just that. Anyway, back to 5G and chemtrails, right? So
Oh, the chemtrails. Oh, now we're getting real
that's
deep in the
that's
woods.
part of the whole thing, and some people have been alleging that this has some. It's not actually Corona. This is actually 5G, which is fast
Yeah,
wireless
well,
speeds are going to kill us. So they come up with a. I don't know. I don't even know where to start with
so
that.
the way I understand it is the contention is that the 5G activates some RFID chip that gets put in you during mandatory
By
vaccinations
Bill
so that
Gates,
they
right?
can control your mind or something. And Bill Gates is in charge of the whole thing
Yeah.
because he wants to decrease the world population because there's too many people or something like that. I think that's how that goes. I forgot to bring in Alex Jones in there. I'm sure Alex Jones would have something to say about it. I don't know. I don't. If you're giving the government that much credit,
Mm-hmm.
then you drastically misunderstand government because they can't even roll out stimulus checks right way, and that's just $1,200 to everybody that files taxes.
Yeah. Have you ever been pushing on something and someone's resisting, and you just change it up real quick and yank, and then they go flying, like, or the opposite thing? That whole thing. I'm sure it's great with kids, especially. It's like, hey, little guy, whoa, and that's kind of the conspiracy theory thing for me. Is there's some stupid sheeple wrongness out there, and when you push completely against it, then you end up flying to the other end. And so, for example, it's skepticism, right? It's being skeptical of power, which is great to have. But then when you're not skeptical of your own nonsense, then you fall way into the wacky land. And it's the same thing with is the government, like, would the government do this? Like, most people say no, they're competent, they're great, okay, whatever. Unfortunately, most people would say that. But is the government competent enough to pull off a conspiracy theory? And so that's the thing, is like, when do you believe in government? Yes. And then if you go to no, then you're like, well, then they must have hoisted this nonsense on us. But if they're no good, maybe it's because they're dumb. And then you get into this whole, like, the back and forth. Somewhere around, if you find someone who's, like, right between the wackiest conspiracy theorist dude and, like, the biggest bootlicker in the world, that's probably somewhere near a rational human being. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the next tab that you're going to show, if I've got the order right in my mind,
I closed them all. It's
is
done. We're done with the tabs. You can do a virtual tab. You can do an oral tab, whatever that means.
yeah, that representative from wherever the hell she's from that wants to hold on. Let me pull up the story so I don't
All right.
get this wrong. So Rep Tavia Golonsky is a
It's a powerful name.
state representative from Ohio, former Teamster, so union. She's chair of the Ohio Women's Caucus and public servant who serves a God of truth. So I
Okay.
don't know what that means. She prays to truth, I suppose. She did her cover photo is her being sworn in. Presumably, her hand is on a Bible. So if her God is truth, I don't know what Bible truth uses, but she is a state rep over there, and she thinks that President Trump should be brought before The Hague for
Yeah, that's the one we were talking
crimes
about.
against humanity. We did talk about that
Yeah,
one.
about the crimes against humanity charge, and just kind of how ridiculous that whole thing is.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that. I guess I glossed over it. I don't know what I was doing over here.
I think the 5G is getting to you. There might be something to this. Are there 5G?
I don't even know if they have.
Yeah.
Listen, I barely get 4G at my house. Okay, I'm usually on 3G, and my phone doesn't load anything. So
Yeah.
give me some 5G because I just want to use the internet. I'm tired of having to drive to Manchester to get decent internet.
Yeah, which is fun. Yeah, you're on 1.7G out there in them woods.
Uh, if that, I mean, my local high speed internet service
Mm-hmm.
provider is Consolidated Communications, and the best I can get is quote unquote up to 3 megabytes per second.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fastest I ever got using them was 1 megabyte per second, and I don't know what your speed out there in Dover. I assume it's pretty fast because you get one of them cities with a lot of people.
Yeah, thirty
So
thousand
you
is
get
like a
the
lot of people in this state.
yeah. Well, it is it's a lot for New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean the fastest I get is my Verizon LTE 4G service, which works most of the time, unless it's snowing, I guess. And then I have satellite internet that gets up to 1.5 megabytes per second on a good day. And if we get cloud cover, then that just falls off a cliff. So no internet for me out in Peterborough, out in the
Yeah.
middle of the woods. I think I'm the only street in town that doesn't get, Comcast or some other form of high speed internet.
Yeah, which has to suck for a lot of people who live like that but aren't as savvy as you are, having to deal with not being basically being condemned to not working in these times. Like for someone like me in a central location with like all the amenities, and I can just sit in my house, look at the river, look at all the cares go by, and just work from home. It's just all right. I guess I just don't see my friends in person as often. Oh, what a terrible life. But then for some people, yeah, you can't have that kind of like work from home connectivity. Then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, my wife Rachel. She
Mm-hmm.
has been working from home for 2.5 years since our son was born, and it was a struggle for her at first too because her work expected her to, sign on to the VPN to do certain things, and when your internet's that slow, you just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
She was having to drive down to Dunkin' Donuts or the library every now and again just to connect to get the files that she needed to work from home. And so that, yeah, it's frustrating, and it must really stink for the kids that are now distance learning, because from what I understand, most teachers are basing that off of internet. And if you can't access the internet, that's a reliable speed, then I guess you're kind of getting left behind.
Yes. No child left behind. Remember that.
Oh, thank gosh that's gone.
Yeah, so that kind of brings me to the Zoom bit. So, if all the streaming services out there, all the internet connectivity, video conferencing type stuff, whether it be Skype or Google Hangouts or whatever else, Zoom seems to be the one that everyone ended up using. And like we've already talked about how their stock must be through the absolutely through the roof from just the whole world migrating to Zoom, and then it's like now Zoom everything. Like fitness instructors and martial art instructors and dance people are all doing like Zoom classes now. Like, hey, you still want to pay us a little bit of money so we don't like die on our already razor thin margins that revolve around doing stuff in person next to sweaty people, which is not very Corona wise. Let's put it that way. They're doing the Zoom stuff. Everyone's doing like Zoom work calls and stuff now. And in fact, my poor girlfriend has like 5 hours of Zoom calls in a single day sometimes and just gets drained by it. It's just I've had that in the past before this whole thing too. It wasn't Zoom, but it was still like hours of these like video calls. Like, oh god. And then we have like Zoom socialization. You've been to the Zoom part, Zoom happy hours, right?
Yeah, I take up. I join pretty much every one that they host there because, being stuck. I don't want to say stuck, but it's when I go home. My wife has been dealing with a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old all day, and she's just desperate for human attention. And then we can't. It's a lot of times it's even hard to have a conversation because the 2.5-year-old and the 6-month-old are just constantly begging for attention. So when we get to just sit there and chat with other functional adults that can have a conversation and don't want to talk about,
Baby Shark.
Dinosaur Train or Baby Shark. Thanks, Greg. Or, well, I play him the Narwhal song all the time now. Because I think it's hysterical and I love narwhals, and I'm going to convince him to have a narwhal birthday party, and it's going to be great.
Yes. So everyone's sort of migrating to Zoom. Like life is now Zoomed.
Yeah, that's where we were going with that. We were talking about Zoom.
Yes. And now the problem is, so everyone's, I guess, assumed that Zoom was secure and encrypted. And apparently there's neither of those things. And there's a lot of private data that's been collected by them, and then there's been a big backlash, and then it's just like, here's my thing, is I do not assume anyone en masse to be competent or moral. I think pretty much, like, there's like 5 people in the world that can be counted on to be competent and moral no matter the circumstances. And none of them work for Zoom, apparently. So it's like, as soon as it's like you have some, like, government shuts everything down. Everyone's suffering. Everyone needs some sort of way to virtually continue their lives, and that their physical lives are shut down. And then Zoom to the rescue. Do we place all our faith in Zoom? No, we don't, because they're just going to screw you over just like everyone else. But at least they're a company that can get caught with their pants around their ankles and then just be shamed, and then people move to other things in their stock tanks and they get upset, and then they'll react to it. Whereas government, you can't get rid of them like that. You can't just say, wait, you did what? You destroyed how much of the economy? The only way you can actually do anything with that, I mean, there's ways you could do it via voting, but it's like, it's always so diffused. But, you throw the bastards out by voting, or you pick up something that goes boom boom and start the boogaloo. And then that's the only way. It's like so much easier to just like dump your Zoom stock and use Jitsi or something else instead. It's just so much easier than like the whole process with like, government.
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep using Zoom. I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll use it whenever. Although right now I'm not using Zoom. We're not using Zoom right now.
We are not. We are using Google Hangouts.
Yeah,
which,
because that's
Google isn't a great company either.
Yeah, it's just, I think, first rule, don't be evil, right, Google? Well, that's the thing is, of course, the moral of the story is power corrupts absolutely. Not even absolute power corrupts.
Well, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
I would say any power pretty absolutely corrupts. But, hey, you find that with no matter who your dictator of choice is, he's going to let you down. You kick him out, there's going to be another one who's going to let you down. And so that constant process, just like, we would love to just stick with one company for the rest of our lives. Sometimes you have like a small business with, just a few people that just ends up delivering a fantastic quality product and service and all that for literally a lifespan. But that's not usual. Sometimes you have to switch it up once in a while. It's like, oh, this place used to be good. I don't go there anymore. Or like, oh, this guy's great, but then ever since this happened, in his life, then he started to charge me more, and he started to like, leave quality to be desired. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And the same thing.
Yes.
The same thing goes with using companies and stuff too, even outside of the whole government sphere. Of the price of having the best bang for your buck is always, being one angry Karen phone call or Yelp review away from just ruining someone's world.
But that's the free market, right? So I mean, if you want to succeed and keep your customers, you have to improve the market as you go, and be what's the word I'm looking for? Versatile. Mm-hmm. Quick to react, stuff like that. So
yeah, agility. What do they call it? Do you have to be
agile? There's the word.
You have to be dynamic. That's the corporate buzzword of the day. You be able to move, and as such, of course, We when we started doing this podcast, it was before this whole craziness, right? It was.
Was it?
I think it was like we
Well,
decided
right
to.
at the like, yeah.
The timing was a little. It was very close. It was like, it's kind of like when my girlfriend started baking bread. She's just like, you know what? I'm going to start baking a lot, and then like 3 days into it, then everyone gets quarantined, and everyone's baking bread, and she's just like, it was my idea. It's kind of one of those things. And so, obviously, with now the market is flooded with jerk offs like us trying to do podcasts and thinking they have stuff to say, stuff to do. So we keep kicking it up a notch. We keep, we increase the production values, trying to make sure everything's running smoother. And now we're trying it live, and bit by bit, trying our best to make sure everything works. So start thinking of some filler stuff to be saying right now, because I am going to check the live chat tabs that we might have neglected on the off chance some
Well,
crazy person said something that we need to cover. So,
I guess this is a good time to let everybody know. This is breaking on Twitter right now. Boris Johnson, the
oh
Prime
yeah,
Minister of Britain, has had the COVIDs for roughly 10 days. And yesterday he was admitted to the hospital, and he was reassuring everybody
yeah,
that it was strictly
it's gotta work.
precautionary. That his doctor said, "Oh, you should go in just in case," and blah blah blah. Well, turns out it's probably a good thing that he did. He was just admitted to the intensive care unit. Uh, it is understood that he remains conscious and that the move is a precaution in case he requires a ventilator. So that was reported by Sky News over in Britain just now. I don't know if you know about Boris Johnson, but he's basically the Trump of Britain.
Yeah, it looks like him too.
Um, they do have similar hair, and they look similar, and they have similar mannerisms. The difference is, I guess, Boris Johnson is a parliamentary genius. Um, he is the person who, as prime minister, finally got Brexit through the House of Commons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you were following that, but it passed in 2016, the referendum vote. It was seen as a precursor to Trump and this rise to nationalism and populism. And for 4 years, I don't know what they've been doing, dillying and dallying, and they haven't been able to get a Brexit deal through the House of Commons and also approved by the European Union. And Boris Johnson came in and said, listen, if we can't get something passed, well, we're just going to have a hard break with Brexit, and we're going to have no trade deals, and we're going to have all of this stuff. And lo and behold, he got a deal passed through the House of Commons, and Britain is now out of the EU finally, which they have wanted for 4 years.
Yeah, and as a
But now
result,
Boris Johnson is in the hospital in the ICU. So
yes, because we didn't listen. The statist told us that if the UK left the EU or any kind of other thing like that, that then the world would end. We did not pay enough attention to Greta Thunberg either, because of all these of humans' wickedness. We've been punished by this global pandemic. That apparently that's how it goes. But
well, so I guess there's something to because of Brexit and Trump. So I guess really it comes down to the COVIDs is a direct result of electing Donald Trump, and that makes it Orange Man's fault. Therefore, Orange Man bad. Therefore, we need to be socialist.
yeah, Orange Man bad and all the things that he oranges around with. Well, this has been a pretty exciting live show that we just ninja dumped on everyone.
Yeah, that nobody watched.
It's fine. People do watch, but we'll have to get an actual schedule going. We'll have to actually tell people when it's going to be, and then they won't be like, "Hey, what's going on? What's this thing?" Just kind of like that Hillary Clinton walking into that like poor person's house, just like that look where people just walking into this like podcast, like, "What's going on today?" But if so, this podcast we'll be sharing this around today, the posthumous link with all the links in the description. So because I am a lazy mofo, this is going out on 2 different YouTube channels. and whichever YouTube channel you're looking at. So the Desert Links is mine. Chris Maidment is yours, right? Is that kind of the name behind it?
Yes.
And all the links to where this is going to be on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on whatever else, all the audio links will be in the video descriptions of those. So rather than just list them off, I'm like, hey, I can't find it. Where is it? Go to YouTube, check out the Desert Links, check out Chris Maidment. All in the description, you're going to see all those links, and you get to go jump in all the audio stuff. If you were following on one of our social medias, like Twitter, for example, we should have the actual YouTube links tweeted out or shared out on Facebook or whatever you can go to.
And if you don't want to miss an episode of Live Free and Rant or miss a notification that we are going live, make sure you follow us on Twitter. I am at Maid_CJ. That's MAID_CJ. And Joel is at The Desert Links. That's at The Desert Links.
Yes,
with
not
one S.
Not
not dessert.
Not
it's
the
desert.
dessert Linux. It's the Desert Links.
Yeah.
Even though I do like dessert, and I do use Linux. It's the Desert.
Yeah, and make
Links.
sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. I'm very excited that we finally got over there. It took me a little while to figure out. You can just search for Live Free and Rant in the search box, and you can hit subscribe. Make sure you give us a 5-star review.
Absolutely.
Nice little thumbs up. A nice little, say some nice words about us. Okay, Mom?
Yes.
All right, Mom? Say some nice words about us, Mom.
And don't forget to throw poor Chris a few bucks. Go to patreon.com/livefreeandrant. And
I will accept good craft beer in lieu of money, though. So if you want to send beer to my house, I'll give you my address. Just shoot me a PM.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a good time, guys. We will see you again next week. Join the live chat. Let us know in the meantime if there's stuff you want us to talk about or feedback you want us to read out live during the next one. I can't guarantee we'll read out all of them if there's some especially salty ones, but we'll do our best. So, yeah, peace out till next time, guys.
Stay COVID free.
Woo!